ESPN got a phone call, and then I got a phone call from at home from Nigel Mansell. Guy Hobbs back again with more stories from the Throttlestop for you. I was talking earlier about IndyCar, and I was lucky enough to be commentating on the IndyCar in its heyday. Mario Andretti, Emerson Fittipaldi, Raul Mansell, Danny Sullivan, you name it, they were all there. And then, sure enough, Nigel Mansell came along.
McLaren will be strongest, and Senna goes through. Senna leads, Mansell retakes it. Wow, already the Titans are fighting.
Hopefully Nigel won't see this because he and I don't talk. We still don't talk. But I'll tell you why in a minute. Anyway, so Nigel Mansell came along, and of course he burst onto the scene. I think he won his first race.
And here comes Nigel Mansell as he comes inside of Fittipaldi. He used the advantage of a back marker that was sitting by the edge of the course.
And we were telling Nigel Mansell stories and welcoming him to it. And of course, he's leading this race. And Nigel Mansell had told us a story before the broadcast. But he had been sick once before in a Formula One car or something. Well, anyway, he goes on to win the race, and we're interviewing him after the race, and he said, I'm not used to this going around. This is the first oval he'd ever done. He said, I'm not used to this going round and round. He said, so I've thrown up in my helmet during the race. He said, but it kind of just drifted down my suit and everything else. So the following week, or 2 weeks later, whatever race we're at, I'm now telling the Nigel Mansell story, how he had thrown up in his helmet. This is the story he had told me. And I'm just telling it during a yellow flag or something, how he had thrown up in his helmet. Well, he came to find out I had talked about him throwing up in his helmet after this, whatever the following weekend race was. And ESPN got a phone call, and then I got a phone call from at home from Nigel Mansell, telling me, do not ever say I threw up in my helmet. That people will think I'm not fit and I can't do it or something. But don't you ever tell me you threw up. I threw up in my helmet. And I'm like, well, you told me you threw up in your helmet. It's not publicly basically on the victory circle. And he said, well, he's furious and it basically didn't talk to me for the rest of the season. Or he'd see me and just nod and shoo me away. Well, at the end of the season, Nigel Mansell went to the BRDC dinner, which is a British Racing Drivers Club dinner, of which, of course, my dad is a member, and so are all his friends, including Richard Atwood, who won Le Mans in a Porsche 917. We weren't at the BRDC dinner, but Richard Atwood was, where Nigel Mansell was auctioning off his helmet that he had thrown up in. And he came, and they immediately called me and said, well, you know that you got in trouble for telling the story about him throwing up in his helmet. Well, he's just auctioned it for like $3,000 or something, or more than that, whatever, $30,000 as the helmet he threw up in. And luckily, I think Nigel only did half another year, and that was it. No, he did it one more year. But needless to say, Nige and I are not the best of friends, and haven't been for some time.
Ba 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 ba.